to episode 7 of Mark on Comms, a preview of week 4 of Euroleague Women regular season. Plenty for me to jump into today. First of all, we're going to have a look at some of the latest news, give you my thoughts and opinions on what's going on. We'll then look at the schedule of games coming up. I'll give you the 3 that are my ones to watch in week 4 for the Euroleague Women first round. And then once again, I'll give you my predictions and see how right or maybe how wrong I can be this week. Okay, first piece of latest news to look at. Mersin have jumped a spot. They have gone up, in fact, 2 places in the latest power rankings to be released by Euroleague Women's. They now sit in the first position. Fenerbahce in second, Valencia in third. I find this really, really interesting. Not sure I agree with it. That's going to be the headline for me. Can't see how Fenerbahce have dropped down into second spot. They're still unbeaten. They have a better points difference within the EuroLeague regular season. They're plus 51. Mersin are plus 39. This isn't a slight on Mersin. I still think they're a ridiculously strong team and absolutely a top 3 team in the power rankings. I just think Fenerbahce by far and away still should be number 1 in those power rankings. Domestically, you look at their seasons as well. Fenerbahce, a 4-0 start to the domestic season. They're the team that are perfect in that league. Mersin 3-2, and those 2 losses have actually come on their home floor. Once against Besiktas and the other against Bourges. For me, I just think Fenerbahce, yes, they had a bump in the road last week against Polkovica. Still came away with the win on the road. Showed some resilience in that game. Can't see how they dropped down to second spot in the power rankings, but that's why we love this, right? Completely subjective. Everyone having their opinions. I'm sure you guys have got your opinions about this one as well. Okay, second amazing piece of latest news is Silvio Dominguez, the legend, the icon that is, has moved up to 3rd place in the all-time EuroLeague Women's assist table. 927 assists. That is an unbelievable number. She overtook Céline Dumerc. What a player to overtake. That's an accolade in its own right. She's now hot on the heels of 2nd place, which is Dalma Iványi. The Hungarian has 957, 30 to go. Can she do it? Potentially she can. I suppose it depends how long does Avenida's season last this year. How many minutes will she be on the floor as a 37-year-old? She's probably going to have to average 3.5, maybe 4 assists a game to get there now. It's a big ask, but if there's any player that could do it this season, then Dominguez certainly can. Not sure she's ever going to get to first place. Laia Palau in first spot with 1,353 assists. That one seems almost unobtainable, but to get into second spot probably is the next one on Silvia Dominguez's hit list. But let's take some time to celebrate her jumping up into 3rd place on that leaderboard. And the final piece of latest news, jumping away from EuroLeague Women's, but certainly something that impacts women's basketball on a global basis. The WNBA Players Association have opted out of their CBA. They have decided to walk away from the current collective bargaining agreement. It will hold, so next season they'll be under the current CBA. It was supposed to go to the end of the 2027 season. It will now end at the end of the 2025 season. I can fully understand why they've done it. I looked at some of the numbers and it's just mind-boggling. Viewership up 170%, attendance up 242%, social media engagement is almost quadrupled. But the one that I think is most indicative of how healthy a fan base is for a league is merchandise sales. 601% increase from their physical store and their online store. That tells you that that is a property that is flying right now. As such, it is right. The players are right to opt out of that CBA because it was written in a time where it was a very different economic situation for the women's game on a global basis. Obviously, EuroLeague Women's is growing and putting in huge numbers as well. Similar numbers, really, when you look at those stats with regards to growth. So the women's game globally is huge, and it's right that the WNBA players now say, right, let's sit around a table, rebuild the economic model that sits around the WNBA. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of economic changes around women's basketball globally, and hopefully a positive impact on Euroleague Women's as well. It's a great time to be involved, and as the popular saying says, everyone is watching women's sport. Okay, so that wrapped up the latest news. Let's jump straight into our slate of 8 games for this week, for week 4. We're now going to move to a Tuesday-Wednesday. Perfect split between Tuesday and Wednesday, though. 4 games Tuesday, 4 games on Wednesday. So first up, we have Mersin against Bourges. We have Fenerbahce taking on Villeneuve d'Ascq, Polkowice Zaragoza, Praha against Valencia. They're the 4 games that will run at us on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, we then have Olympiakos against Zabini Brno, DVTK against Lond, Umana Reya against Győr, and Avenida against Schio. I'm now going to jump into the 3 games that I think are the ones to watch this week. The first of my ones to watch this week is Mersin taking on Bourges. That one taking place in Mersin, so Çukurova on their home court in Turkey. You know, they've now moved up to number 1 in the power rankings, as much as I had that conversation earlier in the episode about where I believe that should be or should not be. They are 3-0. They have looked untouchable so far this season, and you can see why the roster they brought together in the summer is pretty impressive. It's not necessarily the deepest roster, but it has some massive, massive names in it, the likes of Howard, Anderson, Fotukes. You've got Johannes. You've got Samuelson. Margariti is in there as well. Arojo. As well as key players like Rupert, Yaya. There's a ton of talent in that roster. Loads of experience as well. Some big hitters that know how to win games on the biggest stages. So Mersin are set to rock and roll. Now, Bourges may not have the headline names that Mersin have, but they have a stability, and they seem to have a coherent team that are playing well together. Okonkwo having a good start to the season. Astier really stepping up in a big way, starting to take more of a leadership role. Obviously, young player of the year in Euroleague Women a couple of seasons ago. And Duché, what can you say about Duché? Well, she's really stepped up as well, becoming a focal point offensively as well, someone that oppositions have to tag into. Now, clearly, Mersin won the return of this game back in game day 1, so Bourges lost by 11 points on that day. They'll be looking to bounce back from that without a shadow of doubt. If Bourges can win by 12 or more, then they give themselves a chance of leaving the first round with a win under their belts. If Mersin can come away with a win, it guarantees them progression through to the second round. So a super interesting game here, definitely one you should look to tune into. The second one on my list of ones to watch is Praha going up against Valencia. Again, a replay of game day 1. The game in Valencia, very one-sided, 18-point win. A stroll in the park for Valencia on opening game night. Have a feeling this one isn't going to be so straightforward. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's a few weeks into the season. Praha seem to be a little more settled than they were in game 1, in weekday 1. And maybe even more importantly, is Brianna Jones is now part of that Praha roster. They have far more balance than they had. Jones is an absolute legitimate threat offensively. You put that alongside the likes of Harrison stepping up and Conde having the season of her career right now, putting herself in the MVP conversation. Praha looking super strong. Other side of the floor, Valencia, another team that have gone out, recruited well. What have they done slightly different? Okay, so they've brought in some experienced domestic players, the likes of Casas and Torrens return to the lineup. Carrera obviously coming back from that horrible ACL injury in March, but they've brought some talent, some quality in as well. Movunga arrives. Hatar also arrives. Fingal into the team. Yagapova, Turner. These are all household names. These are all absolutely top table, top tier players that Valencia have brought in. Super competitive game. It's certainly, I can't see it being an 18-point ball game either way. I can see this one being single digits and pretty much being single digits for the full 40 minutes. Again, one that you should definitely tune into. As with the Mersin Bourges game, Praha Valencia, I'm on the mic for this one, so I'll be with you for commentary. My third and final one to watch is the final game of the week as well. Wraps up week 4 of the Euroleague Women first round. It's Avenida taking on Schio. This is an interesting one. Again, the replay of game day 1. Schio made their biggest statement of the season in game day 1, running all the way over Avenida. Made light work of them in that first game day. The result, 92-58, sent kind of shockwaves out in both directions. How good is this Schio team and how much trouble are Avenida in? Well, the first one is very good. Schio are looking super good right now. They've had a couple of bumps in the road. They lost to DVTK when we thought they were going to come away with the win. They settled their nerves last week, picking up a 4-point win over Lond, and they certainly have enough talent in that team to come away with a win pretty much against any team in EuroLeague Women's this year. It's just whether they can put it all on the floor. The likes of Salon and Keys in the front court are obviously vital for them. And then realistically, you're probably looking at Verona and Kitty Alaxa in the backcourt being the two key players to drive this Schio team forward. As for Avenida, obviously terrifying after game day 1. Such a huge loss, a worrying sign. But they have absolutely settled back into the season. Depth of quality in this Avenida team. They don't necessarily have superstars that maybe some of the other teams have recruited, but almost 1 through 12, they have real quality. Whoever is rotated in by Coach Montagnana doesn't drop the level. They just kind of pick it up and carry on pushing it forward. We've seen big performances from the likes of Carter already, Fazula, Kone, Dominguez obviously moving up the assist table last week. Galantes, Hill, even the 18-year-old Martin has come in and done a good job this early in the season. So Avenida have a much deeper bench to lean on and therefore can obviously put more on the floor for the full 40 minutes. But against an electric, exciting Schio team, this again is going to be another exciting one. And again, I'm on the commentary for this one, so make sure you tune in to close out week 4. Okay, before we wrap up for the day, I am going to put my head above the parapet again. I am going to give you my predictions for all 8 games this week. I was 7 from 8 last week. I think I was 6 the week before. I haven't had a perfect score yet. We're in week 4. I'm hoping I can get a perfect score this week. I'm sure you guys at home have got your predictions as well, so please do let me know how they match up against mine. So, Mersin against Bourges. Mersin 3-0. Looking good. Action-packed roster that they have. I think the home court certainly tips it even further in favour. They won by 11 on the road. I think it will be a similar winning margin here for Mersin. Fenerbahce against Villeneuve d'Ascq. It's tough to bet against Fenerbahce against anyone, let alone against a team like Villeneuve d'Ascq, who have certainly struggled in the opening few games of this season. Again, I think a relatively comfortable win for the home team here. Now I'm going to go for the road team, Polkovice against Zaragoza. This was a tough one to call, I'm not going to lie. Polkovice's performance last week against Fenerbahce certainly turned some heads. They kept their composure. They put in a very strong performance and pushed the reigning champions all the way to the buzzer. But I'm not sure that they are able to deliver that consistently just yet. I think potentially they can, but I'm not sure the consistency is there just yet. I think Zaragoza are a team on the way up, and I think maybe they'll have a little bit too much confidence and a bit too much momentum as they roll on them on the road on that one. Next up, Praha against Valencia. I think this is one maybe where my prediction may fall down. Praha at home with Jones in the roster, Conde firing all cylinders. I think it's going to be too much for Valencia. And again, I think it's the home court advantage certainly has an impact for this one. No travelling for Praha. Some familiar surroundings will certainly help them. They're building momentum and growing into this. But again, you know, this could be a tough one to call. Could easily be a Valencia win. So I don't know. You guys, I'm sure, have your thoughts on this as well. We switch across to Wednesday. First game up on Wednesday, Olympiacos against Brno. It's a must-win situation for Olympiacos, really. If they are to make it through to the second round, it might be at the cost of a team like Brno, so they need to pick up that home win. But I can't see it happening. Olympiacos haven't shown us a huge amount of signs of being able to notch up long enough periods in a game to get them a win. I think Brno are absolutely a team that probably have enough to get through to the second round, and I think they definitely have enough to pick up the win against Olympiacos on the road. DVTK on their home floor, I've talked about it all season. They're tough to play against. Lond are making the trip to Miskolc, and I just think DVTK will turn away Lond and say, nah, you're not taking the win home. We're going to lock this one out. It was a 1-point ball game back on game day 1. Lond just holding on in the final few seconds of that game. Crazy end to that game. I think DVTK have probably progressed and grown further than maybe Lond have across the first 4 weeks of this first round of the Euroleague Women's. So I think DVTK will take that one. Again, I also go for the home team in our next game, Umana Reya against Győr. Győr sitting there in that group of death. It's not easy. It's a tough group for them to be in, without a shadow of a doubt. Group D, and Reya have looked good. Again, they've had some bumps in the road, losing to Praha last week. But I think Reya have enough talent in that team and will re-establish some momentum, particularly on their home floor, and will be too much for Győr to handle. Final game of the week 4 is Avenida against Schio. Again, my final game for commentary this week as well. And again, another super difficult one to call. I talked about it earlier in the episode. Avenida just have quality 1 through 12. The quality and the output just doesn't dip no matter which 5 are on the floor. Schio, probably a shallower bench, but with maybe more superstar elements in it, particularly Salone. I've gone for Avenida. Home floor is going to play a part of it. That Salamanca crowd are wonderful. They get behind their team absolutely vocally throughout games, whether winning or losing. They're always pushing their team. That's going to play a part. I certainly think it's going to be a different result than game day 1. I don't think it could be a huge double-digit win. Either team that wins this, it's going to be close, but I think home court advantage and the breadth of quality that Avenida have will play out in this one for them to take the win. Okay, guys, hope you've enjoyed this episode of Mark on Comms. Make sure you follow me on the socials, any of them. Go to any of the social media platforms. It's at MarkOnComms. Give me a follow, and I'll bring you my thoughts and some content throughout the season. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click on that subscribe button and you'll be notified every time I put a new episode up. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Hope you tune into the games this week. 8 amazing games to watch, so please do get involved. And I'm sure I'll see you about soon, and I'll see you all courtside.